I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you want. If you are looking for a ransom, I can tell you I don't have any money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I have acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let go of my...
It's okay, Ray Shao. You can stop. It's all good. Everybody knows what it is. It's taken.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non mi faccio il feeling. Spirito Santo.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Well, you know me and, popular quotes.
It's a good quote. It's a very good quote. I was not expecting you to pull out a quote from a big action movie. That's not usually your cup of tea. So,
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 18 of the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast. I'm Justin.
And I'm Joey.
And that's... in this episode, we're going to finish what we started a long time ago as we chat about one of Joey's favorite films and the newest addition to my cringe movie bucket list as we discuss and shudder a little bit with the broken bones of The Raid 2. Plus, my Wheel of Destiny has led us to check out Dead Man Walking, a movie I have been meaning to check out for a long while. So glad I did.
And a heads up, as always, we do discuss our full thoughts on these films. So if you've not seen them, please skip ahead to avoid any spoilers. Or you could, press pause and go watch one or both of them and then come back and listen to us talk about them while it's still all fresh in your head. And you can be like, hey, these guys suck. And then you can go like on Twitter or Facebook and yell at us and it'll be great. So, do that.
Just at Joey on that one, not me. And if you want to be a part of the movie club, just make sure to hit subscribe, that bell notification. We would love for you to listen along with us and comment. Like Joey said, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll take all the heat. You can say that I suck. Just make sure you stroke Justin's fragile ego and tell him how great he is.
Oh gosh, here he goes. Oh, so it's almost like summertime in South Carolina.
Almost not. It is summertime. Maybe not for you. You get the ocean breeze, man. I get nothing. It's 80 85 to 90 like every day already. Like I went outside to go to work today and it was already like in the 80s and I was like, son of a bitch. So I think we have lost Justin. He seems to be having some audio technical difficulties.
Well, not really a technical difficulty, just I had recorded some stuff for work and I had turned my mic way up, but I know if I go and edit this it'll be like way jacked up. So yeah, hopefully that's much better. But, yeah, stupid hot. There's been some real nice spring days, but, man, that heat's coming. It's coming too fast, and it's coming too early because it's only the first couple weeks of May.
Yeah, welcome to May in South Carolina. We know it, and we, quotation marks, love it.
At least it's not August yet, but...
Look, if it's August, 1, it's closer to cooling down, and 2, closer to football.
But it's also stupid hot, so...
Yes, but still, it's...
being down here in the summer, the blood thins out, awfully fast, as it does. So, just kind of in that transitional period. But, yeah, movies watching has definitely slowed down quite a bit. I've been getting into some Best Picture winners that I had seen before, but it's been forever, like Dances with Wolves, and what was the other long one I did? The English Patient. So, been taking me a couple days to get those watched, but glad I did. And
I hadn't seen
hopefully I'll
Dances
pick up
since I
some
was
speed.
a little kid. Probably shouldn't have been watching it little. So I need to probably revisit that at some point.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore Native American scalping in the kind of towards the beginning. So, what's happening with you, my friend?
Well, I'm still in birthday countdown mode. 10 days to my birthday, 7 days, exactly a week from today will be my last day at work before I leave for a few days to enjoy my birthday. So I'm pretty excited for that. I'm gonna be off next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then that Monday as well. Little mini vacay going up to Charlotte. Gonna eat some food, play some cardboard crack, get my drink on, hopefully, adult things. And then I think my movies have kind of picked up a little bit here recently. I think when I was looking at my Letterboxd stats yesterday, my last 2 weeks have been my highest movies per week of the year back to back. So I've been doing trying to go through the Mojo Top 100 and movies that I own but haven't watched yet. And some of those correlate and are in both. So if you're paying attention to my Letterboxd and you see really weird like all action movies and then a bunch of animated movies and then more action movies or something that seems out of place, that's why. So, but I'm looking forward to getting through the Mojo Top 100. It'll be my first cleared list on Letterboxd that they have in like the stats section. So
I'll have to check that out. I didn't realize that was there.
Yeah, it's right where it says like Letterboxd Top 250 and all that stuff in your stats. Yeah, so I'm at like now I'm at like 80 out of 100. So,
typically me and the kids would have gone and seen Doctor Strange by now, but had a few school things going on, some different activities, so maybe cram that in the morning. See how it goes.
I would love to go see that, but that's all money I could use towards my birthday. So,
okay.
At this point, I'm probably just gonna wait for it to hit streaming.
It's probably a good plan.
I mean,
It's gonna be a while though on that one.
Oh well, yeah, I know, but it's just how it is. I mean, I want to see it, and I want to see Thor in theater, but and, there was some other stuff you and I were just talking about off cast that obviously like that money could go towards. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, a bunch of movies I want to see in the theater now. I mean, we'll see if we'll catch Morbius or not. I'm kind of whatever on that. Could be fun, could be crap. Probably is both. We'll see. Want to see The Northman. That looks good.
That does look very good.
Everywhere, all at once looks good. So, yeah. It's hard to go see those rated R movies when I got the fam, because I'd actually have to like get a babysitter and like sometimes even take off work. I did that for when I went to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood back in the day.
Oh man, if I lived closer, I'd be like, look, you're going to tell Christina to watch the kids. You and I are going to watch this movie, but yeah, that's not very easy when you're three-ish hours away. So
yeah, whenever you were actually in town, we could have seen Moonfall on its opening weekend.
What the hell isn't even Moonfall?
Something about the moon hitting the earth or some kind of craziness.
Is it in the sky like a great big pizza pie? Is it Amore?
The Ocarina or Majora's Mask kind of deal.
Something.
All right. Let's get into some movie trivia. I actually didn't mind getting this ready to die. Okay. Can you name what movie Nick Cage, because, Nick Cage is pretty up there in the popularity right now. Got a whole movie dedicated to his persona. Yeah, what movie did he get Best Actor for?
Isn't it something like Moonstruck?
Nope.
Is it the Vegas movie? And not
it is the Vegas.
It's not. Is that Leaving Las Vegas?
That's right. It's about alcoholism. That's
okay.
It. Do you know who was the original voice of Shrek before Mike Myers took over?
Before Mike Myers took over as Shrek. Adam
It,
Sandler.
it's all good guess, but it's also in the SNL 90s kind of quadrant of fame, if that's somewhat of a hint.
I mean, it could be anybody. It could even be a boat. When did Chris Farley die?
It was Chris Farley.
Oh, okay.
Which I've heard some samples, and it's a much more melancholy Shrek. So I think they probably went the right direction. And unfortunately, Chris Farley died. So probably wouldn't have had the same franchise if they would have gone that route. Either that or recasting. All right. So this next one's kind of a multi-parter. So do you know what the top grossing film at the box office in 2019 was?
2019. Was that Endgame?
It was in game.
That's the highest grossing movie of all time, right?
I think it's supposed to be. The website I was looking at was kind of close between that one and Black Panther, which Black Panther was 2018. Do you know what the top grossing film of 2020 was?
So 2020, we went into shutdown part of the way through the year. I have no clue.
Bad Boys for Life.
Oh, god damn, that is. Oh, according to Box Office Mojo here on Letterboxd, by the way, the top grossing movie of all time is still Avatar.
Okay.
It doesn't give numbers or anything, but it's still Avatar with Endgame being second.
Now, the interesting part here is how much of a money dive did was there? Basically, what's the difference in money that Endgame made compared to Bad Boys for Life?
Probably
Roughly.
something like probably, I don't know, $600 to $800 million.
It was like $9 billion difference.
Okay, so how much
Oh,
did
wait a minute. No, or would that be million? I'm terrible with numbers.
Well, Avengers made, I'm pretty sure, in the $1 billion mark. I was about to say that, how much?
Because isn't an Endgame at like 11 billion or something
I don't know how much. Are we doing domestic or worldwide?
worldwide?
Okay, well, it made almost 3 million in the United States. Just by Googling before I could finish typing. 2.798 billion US dollars is what it says.
Okay, so 11 billion is probably accurate.
That's why my guess was like $800 million, because I don't know what Bad Boys for Life made, but if it made $3 billion, then I feel it's like $2.5 billion or something.
Okay, and the final part is: do you know what last year's highest grossing movie was?
2021 highest grossing movie. Before I get to that, so Bad Boys for Life made $426.5 million. So yes, it was like $2.3 billion difference. So 2021, was it Dune?
Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so,
that
how
makes
much
sense.
more did Spider-Man make compared to Bad Boys for Life?
Probably like $1 billion.
It was 2 billion. The Spider-Man number was 4 billion. Bad Boys for Life 2, and then Endgame 11. So still haven't really bounced. The box office still really hasn't bounced back, but I just thought that was an interesting way of kind of picturing it. Interesting. So Black Panther shows at 11. Last Jedi at 11, Finding Dory at 11, Jurassic World at 11, Guardians of the Galaxy 10, Iron Man 3, 10, The Avengers 10, Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2 10.
Because like, where are you at? Because like, I'm googling like how much did Spider-Man No Way Home make globally, and it's like 1.77 billion, is what
I'm
it
on
says.
this Box Office Mojo domestic yearly box office totals.
Let's see. Spider-Man. Yeah, it made 1.003 billion for a global total of 1.74.
Sent you the link just in case. All right, moving on. Let's talk about what else we've been watching lately with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Alrighty then, so I have... See, watching movies at home is better. Can be better. The Party from Hell, and hit pretty close to home.
Okay, I have... Trying to look at multiple things at one time. I have Vaya con Dios, Suntory Time, and No Villains, Only Gru.
Okay. Kind of remind me of Groot, but I think that's Despicable Me. You can tell me about Despicable Me?
Yes, that is Despicable Me, but it was also supposed to be like no blah, only Gruel, or only Zool. Is where I was going with the reference there. So this is actually one of the movies I had to watch. So the Box Office Mojo list had 3 of the 4 Despicable movies in the top 100.
Okay.
2, 3, and Minions. So I had to watch 1 to get to 2. And so far I've watched 1 and 2. I like 2 more than 1. But it's just, they're funny. I don't know. I mean, obviously they're kids movies, but they're just entertaining. I have a good time with them. The 2 I've watched so far. And they have crazy cast doing the voice acting and stuff. I mean, the only thing that kind of bugs me is that I can tell that Gru is Steve Carell, because even with his voice change, he still has that same cadence where it sounds like he's Andy from 40-Year-Old Virgin, or he sounds like Michael Scott, just because of that cadence, which, he can't help. That's how he talks. So, but still, it's they've been fun. Probably more fun than some of the other movie franchises where I'm going to have to watch multiples to either just to get to them, to the ones that are in there. Here's Looking at You, Twilight, where I have to only the 5th one is in the top 100.
Wow.
Or like Transformers, where 3 and 4 are in the top 100. So yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah. So but having fun with the 2 that I've watched so far.
Nice.
All right.
What do you want me talking about?
The Party from Hell.
All right. So I saw this new Criterion, The Celebration. It was on the channel. Had been meaning to watch this for a while. Now, Vinterberg and Lars von Trier are kind of somewhat related filmmakers, since they're both from Denmark and they were into this whole Dogma 95 thing, where they really did minimalistic filmmaking. So this is a pretty cool flick. It is basically about this family who they have a celebration for the father, whose birthday, but then some pretty unfortunate announcements get made. And at first you're like, oh, this guy can't be serious. This is too extreme. But then as the party goes along, you're like, maybe they're onto something here. And things kind of fall apart and get pretty crazy. And it's kind of claustrophobic feeling. The Celebration. I thought it was a pretty good show. Recommend it. Bless you.
Thank you.
It's also called Festen, and that's the Danish title.
All right. Interesting. All right, what you got?
Via con Dios.
Vaya con Dios. Well, Vaya con Dios is what Johnny Utah says to Bodie at the end of Point Break.
Oh.
One of my all-time favorite movies. And if you wouldn't have qualified it with that you haven't seen, it's probably what we would have been watching. Just gonna throw that out there. But yeah, it's Keanu, it's Swayze, it's Nick.
President Masks.
Oh yeah, President Mask, the ex-presidents, bank robbing, surfing.
Oh, were you thinking about Gary Busey?
Yeah, Gary Busey, that guy. I was about to say Nick Nolte, but that was wrong. Yeah, no, it's just good 90s crime thriller, robbing banks, surfing, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
I am an FBI agent.
I am an FBI agent. Wild, ain't it? Love it. It's not the best movie. Like, I'm gonna be real. Like, it's not high cinema, but it is fucking great, and I love it, and no one can tell me otherwise.
Catherine Bigelow directed that.
Yes, Catherine Bigelow did direct that movie.
Yeah, it's pretty good for a cheesy '90s action flick.
Look, that's my wheelhouse. Don't you start. I will end this podcast right now. And then immediately come back and finish it. But
All right.
So we did Party from Hell last time.
Mm-hmm. Did you not listen?
I didn't remember. I was looking at that thing that you sent me trying to figure it out, and yeah, the numbers on the outside don't match if you click on the actual movie links themselves. So I don't. Maybe it's because it says gross, but whatever. See, watching movies at home is better.
Okay, so I rewatched this that Spider-Man No Way Home, and I actually got pretty emotional about it this time. In the theater, I guess I had just kind of these expectations of what I wanted to see, and then I mean it was pretty satisfactory, but I wish they would have gone a little further. But man, actually like taking it in at home, like quiet, not having all that hoot and hollering whenever like Daredevil and stuff pops up. Yeah, it was quite the kind of nostalgic experience, just because I kind of grew up watching all those Spider-Man movies back in high school, and to see it kind of come full circle with this third iteration was pretty emotional, and I enjoyed it on a whole different level. Watching it in the peace and quiet of my home without the raucous crowds. So
I actually feel that I would have liked that movie a lot more if I had seen it in the theater. If I had seen it opening weekend, because all the big spots where so-and-so shows up, I knew about them. Even though I didn't seek them out. I mean, and some of that is, ahead of time. Like, we knew going in that there were multiple Spider-Men. Okay, whatever. But then it wasn't, you didn't know who all the villains were. You didn't know that Matt Murdock was going to be there until they, like, you can't not be on the internet for that long. So I thought that movie was very underwhelming. I didn't see honestly what the big deal is. It's like not even in my top 25 movies I've watched so far this year. Like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, no. It was I don't think it's bad. I just thought it was very underwhelming. Like, I just like also, and I get it that it's a movie and sometimes you have to do dumb things to make movies happen, but like, this movie doesn't happen if Peter just goes, "This is what I want," and not, "Hey, add this," or if Doctor Strange is like, "Okay, here are the specifications." Like, both of those people are way too smart to make the kind of mistake they made at the beginning that set up this whole movie. So that also kind of bothered me. But again, whatever, movie, it happens.
Yep. Lots of dumb decisions go into movie conflict.
So.
Okay. Your Suntory, is that sounds familiar. Is that like Japanese?
It is Japanese whiskey.
Okay. Did you watch that Bill Murray show?
It does star Bill Murray, yes.
Did you watch I forget what it's called, the one with Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah, that's the one. It's Lost in Translation.
Yeah.
But
Lost
oddly
in
enough,
Thought.
I've had Suntory whiskey, and it is very good.
Okay.
I'm not even a whiskey person, and it's very good. Like, you go talk to Carl or some of my other friends, his other friends that are big whiskey people, and it's like apparently like the top shit. So, but no, I like that movie. I actually liked it quite a lot.
Had you seen it before?
No, I'd never seen it before. It was one of those. This movie's on my shelf. I haven't watched it. Let's go.
Okay.
And of course, it's Scarlett Johansson.
Two female-directed movies in your Good, Bad, and Ugly. Kudos.
I mean, we all know how I feel about the ladies.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, very young ScarJo, much younger Bill Murray, who's still kind of already old. But I mean, it was like, stuff didn't happen, but it did happen. It was one of those kind of movies, and I don't know, I was just kind of sucked into the story of what was happening between the two of them and their very strange friendship relationship going on. And Definitely recommend going to check it out. I enjoyed seeing they were in the arcade and the people were playing like fucking Guitar Hero, and I was like, oh man, to know this is old and fucking Guitar Hero in the
Came out like 2000, 2001, right?
somewhere in that ballpark is the correct answer.
I saw it on DVD like when it first came out. Like my dad like randomly picked it up and was like, "What is this?" Watched it and kind of a
2003.
Okay.
So the year we graduated to high school.
All right.
It was actually one of my. I picked it up for $1. I think I picked it up for $1. Yeah, that or it came in one of the random boxes from Second and Charles. I can't remember, but
Okay.
yeah. So, all right. So you have Close to Home. Hit Close to Home.
Yeah, I watched this divorce movie, Kramer versus Kramer, won Best Picture. I believe it was 79. Gosh, Dustin Hoffman's an incredible actor. I think this might have been the first time I ever saw Meryl Streep in a film, and I can definitely see my high school brain just being totally driven crazy by her, just in terms of like how she's kind of like this, she wants to be more independent or whatever, and that's just not where my brain was for relationships back in high school, as you develop and get mature. The best part about this I thought was the fact that like the chemistry between Dustin Hoffman and the kid felt like so authentic, and like the fact that like all the trouble the kid gets into is like the same kind of scenarios I deal with all the time with raising my 3 kids, and a lot of times my wife's at work, so it's just me, so I kind of feel like a single dad sometimes. So it was very hit close to home. See this emotional courtroom drama play out and revisit it again. I thought it was quite good. Kramer versus Kramer.
I'll have to check that out. I've been meaning, because I like a good courtroom drama. The year where I got to see No Time to Kill, I think is the right name, and the military one, A Few Good Men. Like I saw them like within a couple weeks of each other.
Oh, A Time to Kill, right?
A Time to Kill, yeah.
McConaughey.
Yeah, Maddie Mack and Sandy B, I believe it's right. That movie was fantastic. Both of those were great, so I like those. And I've been meaning to watch 12 Angry Men for a long time. I just haven't gotten to it yet. So
yeah, it's a very easy watch. Good one too. And yeah, Kramer vs. Kramer, definitely a predecessor to what Marriage Story would do.
Oh, Marriage Story still sitting at the #1 spot for the year.
Oh, okay.
The only
didn't watch it the year it came out. It was on Netflix.
Yeah, that's where I watched it too. It's still barely, essentially tied with Parasite. Those 2 movies were just so good.
Okay. All right, let's get into this featured movie. This is my category for Joey, which was a favorite of his that I'd never seen before. Let's see what Wikipedia had to say.
In interjection, so that made me have to stretch out some my search there. I don't know if I would have picked the Raid 2 had he not included that clause, but here we are.
Not to be confused with Santa.
Not yet, anyway.
All right. The Raid 2 is a 2014 Indonesian action crime film written, directed by Welsh filmmaker Gareth Evans. So yeah, that was kind of surprising to hear that a white dude directed this, but as you would. It is a sequel to 2011's The Raid. Was that also done by Evans? Do you know?
Yes, they were both Gareth Evans.
Okay. In the story, Special Forces Officer Rama is sent undercover to expose the corrupt police officials colluding with the crime families of Jakarta's criminal underworld. Like Evans' previous films, Merantu and The Raid, the fight scenes showcase the Indonesian fighting style of Pencak Silat. Did I get any of that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And just part of the reason that I picked this was because we did The Raid back in season 1. Was it like episode 3? I don't know. It was real early. It was one of the first ones we did.
Yeah, it's like one of the first challenges you gave me.
Yeah,
I bitched about the subtitles.
And I think that was the first of many times we had that conversation.
Just so rapid fire, I remember.
Oh, I watched the movie this morning, Wolf Warrior 2 and Wolf Warrior I watched last night. Both of their subtitles were just lightning fast. There were some I couldn't even read, and I was like, good Lord. But go back and check out that old episode so you know see what we thought about that one versus see what we thought about this one. Plus, obviously, would probably be a good way to check out and see how we've grown in a few years as well.
All right, so what makes this one of your favorite shows?
I mean, because it's a badass martial arts action movie.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely. I think this was actually. I'm gonna be real. Like, I don't think I'd seen this since theaters. I did not remember very much of it. I remembered the fight at the end with the baseball bat, which we will get to, and that was really it. I didn't remember the premise. I didn't remember the opening beginning scene. Like I don't think I'd seen this since theaters. So it had been a hot minute. I may have seen it once on Blu-ray since then, but it was hard to pick a favorite that you hadn't seen, and I think like I said at the end of the last episode, it was down to a couple, and this one we'd already watched the first one on here, so it just kind of made sense to finish it out.
Now, what are your thoughts on this one compared to the first one?
The first one is much better.
Okay.
And part of that is the first one is like an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, and this one is 2.5 hours. And the first one, you have a story. It's very straight to the point. There's a drug lord, has a building. We're going in to take it. Very much like the Judge Dredd remake or anything like that. It's like, this is what we're going to do. Whereas this one, it continues the same story. It's the same characters that lived through the first one. But now you've got this police officer getting sent to jail to come out to investigate, kind of very like Departed, Infernal Affairs kind of vibe. And, you know, kind of long, and I felt like it was overly long. Like, this kind of movie doesn't need to be 2.5 hours. So, but I mean, still enjoyable, still a fun watch, but I did downgrade it when we got to the rating. Like, I did downgrade it this time around.
Now, there's parts about this one I liked more than the first one, just because I think the first one was a little bit tarnished, because I did so familiar with the story from Dredd, even though it's, you know, it's different, but like just the idea that the confined setting of it, I mean, it definitely had some great action set pieces, but on a whole, I liked how this was telling a bigger story, but at the same time, that was a drawback here. Now I watched the goofy dub version, which was definitely had issues, but for a 2.5 hour movie, I sucked it up on those crappy dubs just to not have to put too much effort into getting this one down.
So yeah, no, the Raid Blu-ray starts on dubs for some reason, or the Raid 2. The Raid 1 starts in Indonesia, and the Raid 2 starts in dubs. And I heard like the first line, and I was like, no, that's they were not good dubs. So more power to you for making it through that, brother.
And I think in retrospect, it was probably a good thing I did watch kind of the goofy dialogue, just because it is such an intense movie that it kind of helped soften the blow of that at times. Because there was times where I was maybe kind of short of breath, just because I was so like, you know, on edge because of, you know, how uncomfortable I was just by like, I think it was mostly that mud scene is whenever, you know, every other second it was like you were hearing bones breaking. It was quite stomach churning.
So yeah, this movie has like these really big fights, crazy fights, and then long periods with nothing, and then like a big fight, and then you get to the end, and it's like just like the last probably 30 minutes is basically a fight. But yeah, the choreographing and everything, or choreography, I guess, whatever you want to call it, for that fight in the mud in the prison was crazy. I liked the one at the bathroom at the beginning as well.
Okay.
Well, I mean, obviously different, but that same thing as the 300, where let them in through the door. They can only come in like one at a time. You can fight them. Obviously, didn't work out super swell, but that same kind of thought kind of went through my head when I was watching that.
The Raid is a perfect title for the first one, or The Raid Redemption, but calling this The Raid 2 is kind of misleading because it's like just like a bunch of fights. It's not really a raid anywhere.
Yeah,
if anything,
no,
you could call it The Raids.
yeah, there is no like straight up raid or anything, but I guess it was just for
Kind of cornered
simplicity.
himself in with the franchise title.
Yeah, when you get the Raid Redemption, and then so, I mean, I guess it's just for simplicity. I mean, you could have called it, something else, and then put the Raid 2 underneath it, or the sequel to the Raid, or whatever. But it's just much easier when it's Raid 1, or the Raid, and then the Raid 2. So.
I really loved a lot of tall grass shots throughout it, which I've seen a lot in like some Japanese movies. So I wonder if that's just like kind of a signature look that they have over there.
I mean, they probably have a lot of fields and stuff where they have the tall grass, and so I mean, it does.
Onibaba is a good one with tall grass. What's the other one?
Oh, that's one I still need to see.
The guy who did Parasite did Memoirs of Murder. That's a really good.
Oh yeah, I
movie.
want to see that one. That has tall. It has it right on the cover of the movie.
So yeah, that's really great visuals there with that. Yeah, I agree. Way too much story in this thing. They really stretch it out, and then they even like add stuff in there, which we'll get to. Yeah, so if they cut a lot of the bullshit in this, I think this would have been a much tighter, more enjoyable flick. But yeah, did you want to sum up the story? I mean, I kind of flicked back through it, and it's real quick. I mean, they're killing this one guy, then they're telling the other guy, I guess from the previous movie, that he's gonna go undercover in jail, and
Yeah,
he
so
ends up like messing with like a politician's son or something, and getting himself into some hot water. It was kind of confusing.
Rama, he was a rookie. He was like the rookie guy in the Raid 1, and Reza, I think, was the leader, and was, hey, he's fine. Told him to come along, and he's the guy who ends up being Sub-Zero in the new Mortal Kombat. And then Rama is Iko Uwais or whatever, and so he survives, and they've got the corrupt lieutenant, and they go see his brother, who was one of the bad guys, tells him to go see a certain guy. He's a good person, and that guy, turns out, he leaves like basically internal. He leads the internal affairs IA. Yeah, he leads the internal affairs group or whatever, and they straight up just shoot the old man. And then, a little while later, they show Rama they're going to put him in jail to get next to this guy, because his father's the one who ordered the hit, or because of corrupted politicians, his father's the one who, through his crime syndicate, ordered the hit. So yeah, he beats up a politician's kid, the same one that the leader of the syndicate's son beat up. So they're both in jail for beating up the same person, and that was like, hey, this is what we have in common. And then he helped save him in the mud fight, and then he gets out, and now he's in the syndicate, essentially, kind of helping pick up packages and money with the son, and then looking for revenge for his brother.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us to the part of the story that's much easier to follow. Now, you said you liked the bathroom fight. I thought that was kind of the wrong fight to lead off with, because it was so like sudden and confined, and you could barely tell what was going on other than a bunch of like bodies piling on top of each other. So not my favorite scene, but it was awfully intense, and too much shaky cam in this. Jeez.
I mean, the shaky cam, like, I know people complain about that in like the Borna series, which I also just finished watching, and it's like, but it's shaky because they're supposed to be. It's supposed to be from the perspective, like the person's fighting. It's supposed to be moving, like it's not supposed to be still. But I mean, the first movie was also very confined. So like I think it was kind of maybe that was, oh, here's your confined fight, because most of your other fights aren't really that confined throughout, other than I guess the train fight. And let's be real, that wasn't really a fight. That was a murder.
The other one that kind of bothered me was right before the badass car chase. They start fighting in the car, and that was kind of claustrophobic as well.
Oh yeah,
But
I did not like the fighting in the car. Like I liked the car chase. The car chase was great,
yeah.
but the fighting in the car, it's just like this feels. I don't know. Like there was nothing wrong with it. Like it wasn't like, oh, this is bad. There was just something about it where I was just like, it was just. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
I mean, they have all these great martial arts, and whenever they're only punching a few like inches away from them, it kind of takes out like the visual like style of like the beauty of that fighting style. It's like it's not like what's the like it's an Umbach or something, like you really like see the guy's like moves in action, and it's a lot more fun to take in, where this is more like desperate, like scrambling for punches, and it's a little more frantic, so much different style.
I mean, yeah, and I guess it's kind of obviously supposed to be frantic, but I mean you definitely get to see a lot of it on style, but also I mean it definitely, like especially look at like Mad Dog, and he was definitely trying to fight like Muay Thai style and put people in the clinch, and in parts, and other parts it was just they were going balls to the wall. So I mean, I think that's I guess that's part of it. But I mean, like, with it being like you said, frantic, and they're just I got to get a hit in before I get hit kind of thing. It's I mean, it's interesting to see people doing the stuff that they were doing in that small of confinement.
Which is kind of funny because I took my first Kimpo karate lesson last night, so. Yeah, just to throw that out there. Yeah, the kiddos were wanting to do that with me, so yeah, gonna be a white belt again. Did you ever do martial arts?
Nope, I never did. My brother and sister are both multiple time black belts in American karate, but I have never done anything. Yeah.
Damn, he got screwed on that prison sentence because it was just supposed to be a couple months. He says goodbye to his wife, and then 2 years later.
Yeah. Because the politician pulled some punches and, kind of expected.
By far, I thought the camera angles and the dynamics of like the composition of the shots, like you had like these overheads. I mean, the camera's going everywhere, and it's really fun to watch most of the time. And one thing I wanted to pick up on was you had said like the camera was kind of shaking with some of the characters, and you could see that it was towards the end, this guy jumps through like a window, and like the camera kind of goes sideways, and I thought that was a really cool way of like bringing the camera into the action.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's definitely some good camera work. They put a lot of time and effort into the fight scenes and making them look the way that they did, for sure.
Now, back to that mud scene. Like, there's violence where, like, it's fun to watch, and this was just violence that was, like, unfortunately, really uncomfortable to watch, because it was, like, every other second, like, that you would see, like, people's, like, it's like broken bottles going into, like, necks and blood going everywhere there, and crunching, and it was quite unsettling, all the body parts on clear alert throughout this.
I mean, yeah, no, I mean, that is, I mean, they are definitely brutal movies for sure. I don't know, maybe because I had just watched The Raid, and I'd watched a bunch of other action movies, like it didn't come at me that way, but I mean, they definitely did break like a lot of bones, and you did have people getting stabbed a bunch. I think someone got beat with a rock in that scene. So I mean,
Probably.
it was definitely a very intense fight scene for sure.
Plus, you wouldn't, like, actually just being in that, like, mud would be kind of an icky feeling. So that on top of, like, the threat of, getting your arm snapped off.
I do like that they showed, like, they were sliding and fighting for their footing and stuff in that. I thought, I mean, like, there's too many times where you'll get into a fight and something like that. Well, it's just there for aesthetics, where they actually like incorporated it in instead. So yeah.
Really, I mean, it was such thick mud. I don't think. I mean, they really didn't have any other option. It was all over the place. But yeah, I suppose they could have done some movie magic. But you're absolutely right that yeah, they incorporated that well. And now flicking back through it, I noticed the prison stuff was only 30 minutes, but I swear it felt like an hour when I was first going through it.
Yeah, he did seem like he was in prison for a long time to not really be, but they probably could have trimmed. I want to say they could trim some of that down, but what are we trimming? The 2 fight scenes? Are we trimming where they're, kind of trying to build a story where he's getting talked shit to? I mean, that the mud fight scene was great, but it was very long. I mean, maybe you trim something there. I hate to say that because as good as it was, but.
You had already said it, but it definitely did remind me of The Departed. Never seen Infernal Affairs, so maybe that'll be your next recommendation.
Infernal Affairs is very good. It's the movie that Marty based The Departed on. So it's very good.
All right, so flashing forward a little bit, you get the scene where they kind of crash into a smut studio. They're filming some kind of raunchy pornography, and yeah, they want some more money, and so everybody gets shot up in that place. The people printing those pretty cool looking discs, the actors themselves, and yeah, everybody's getting shot.
Oh yeah, because the guy running the porno biz was also selling some powder and wasn't paying for that protection, and dudes wanted to. I guess they thought they were big shots, and then they ran into Prison Boy and Rama and they got fucked up like everybody else in the movie.
There's a lot of moments throughout this where you can kind of tell that they're going for being a little edgier, because I mean they're talking about that girl's talking about fucking a guy in the ass, and then later on there's like really misogynistic with the boss's son who's pissed off about his father, who's calling bitches and either you're gonna sing or you're gonna fuck me stuff. So yeah, it definitely had it's out to be, kind of at your throat throughout.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, even though it was 8 years ago, isn't that long? Like, think about how people make movies now compared to then in just that short amount of time. Like, when you're like, oh man, you see someone, hey, and just straight call women bitches, and you're like, wait a minute, what? Like, that's just it's so much different now in just less than a decade.
And it's curious to think if like an Asian gangster flick would still have that approach or not. It definitely would be a little bit different in Western cinema, I would think. I'm not sure about around the world. Okay, here's a character where you might have been able to skinny down his story. So you have the hobo hitman guy. Which the whole part where like he's meeting with his wife and he wants to see his kid, but he can't see his kid, and then he has this whole sit down where they're talking about like the family legacy. All that was a little stretched out in my opinion. I'm not sure if did the hobo hitman add much for you?
No, other than it was the same guy who was Mad Dog, and they wanted to hide that, but I mean it was him. If it wasn't him, then well, kudos for a lookalike, but I'm 99% sure that was him, because I mean he's such a good fighter, but it's like, oh well, y'all kind of made him dead in the first one, so you can't be that guy anymore.
Okay.
So
man, that the slicing of the neck scene, that was another brutal benchmark for me. That was whenever the crime boss teamed up with that other dude. And he's just like basically like prove your loyalty, and so he has to slit all these guys' throats.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're talking about where with the crime boss to the much smaller syndicate, the half Arab guy, the guy who shoots Andy at the very beginning, that guy with the cane. Yeah, yeah, I know. And then what you find out later about that whole scene too is kind of crazy. So,
is it the hobo hitman? I think he has the rapid punch. Oh, and I totally forgot the scene where our main character is Rama, right?
Yes.
Whenever he's punching the prison wall, that's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, he's just practicing, but he's hard punching. I mean, kind of you think back to, I think it's Kickboxer with Jean-Claude, and the The Thai dude is just sitting there, kicking his shin against a tree, against the baseboard of the door. Yeah, it's against the baseboard of the door, and he's like, "Oh, you're not breaking that leg. That leg is gonna fuck you up." Tongpo. I think that's his name.
Probably one of my favorite scenes is whenever we get this kind of this classical music playing when they're gonna betray. I think this is the I think the fight for the hobo hitman kind of spills off into this alley, and somebody ends up killing him, and with these curved, awesome-looking blades. And I need to look up what that song is. I remember hearing something similar to that, like in church around Easter time, and it's kind of about like betrayal. So maybe that was the same song. Anyways, it set a pretty good vibe, and yeah, like the upward or the downward shot of the guy with the blood splatter all around kind of gave this kind of a little bit of a samurai feel, especially with the length of the movie. So maybe they were going for that.
I mean, possibly, yeah. It definitely could have been an homage to some samurai style movies, yeah.
But yeah, I think my favorite part would be Hammer Girl and Bat Boy, especially whenever Bat Boy asks for the ball, because he is one good hit away from knocking you out, your ass down.
But Hammer Girl, where she gets on the train and fucks them guys up, like just with the hammers. We're not talking about like hammer that you see on a video game or like a dwarf would carry or something. No, this is the old boy hammer, just a regular claw hammer. Two of them, dual wielding, baby. Fucking, I would not want to fight her, and she was deaf.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, so the main crime guy, boss, he gets executed by his son. Now we get to that awesome car fight, or not the awesome car chase, which starts with the claustrophobic inside the car battle.
It's kind of through a lot of the chase too. It's through a good portion of it.
It definitely the moments where like people were like hanging out the window and dragging on the road. I mean, it's pretty intense, hardcore, but at the same time, it definitely stuck in my mind for being pretty intense but memorable and badass, I guess. Did you notice where they're like all of a sudden in like this like, how do I describe? I want to describe it as like just Chernobyl. You know what I mean? Like it's like all these like bombed out apartment buildings.
Or maybe old parts of Hiroshima or Nagasaki, maybe. Except for they're not in Japan, so never mind.
Well, I think those bombs would have blown away the buildings. I mean, these were like hollowed out, like.
Yeah, it's definitely not Chernobyl. But yeah, no, it's just these old. They definitely look like they've been in a fucking battle. Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, it definitely wasn't Chernobyl because that would be all the way in Ukraine. But yeah, it just had that look. So that's all I was getting at.
Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely had that like some sort of meltdown or big explosion or something. So.
And then before long, we get to the climax. We get the showdown in that. We get a pretty cool hallway showdown scene between Rama, the Hammer Girl, and Bat Boy. So he takes him down. Man, that bat going every which way, bashing people. Quite thrilling. Kitchen battle is the final one. That's where he takes on. You probably know more about that guy, but he had the curved blades, and he's like taunting him throughout, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was the guy who beat his ass right before the start of the car chase scene. Oh. That's how he was tied up in the car chase, and he had done something else somewhere in the movie. He'd fucked some people up or something. So
he had that crazy bloody smile at one point, and gosh, he gets stabbed and stabbed and stabbed and stabbed.
Oh, we're not going to
finally
talk about
dies.
the how the Bat Boy dies. Like,
go ahead.
Where he gets his face caved in with his baseball bat, and it's stuck in there, and
Sounds
he
right.
falls over, and Hammer Girl got hammered, right? Yeah, it was when he didn't really use weapons; he just used their weapons against them.
That sounds right.
Yeah, but no, he fucked that dude up with that baseball bat. Good lord, that was the thing I remembered was it's sticking in his face.
Oh. I remember the scene not too long afterwards where he puts the shotgun in that one guy's face and blows half of it off. Ugh.
Oh yeah, dude. Then we get to the end and it's like the big gunfight, and then you've got the son realizes that the dude sacrificed his own men And he ends up shooting him. So Rama doesn't even get revenge because that was the guy who killed him, but the other dude killed him.
Mm-hmm. Wow, so much killing.
Oh yeah, no, people are dying left and right.
It was a pretty sweet ending, though, how he's just like kind of stumbling through all these like rooms filled with guys that he beat the shit out of, and then he gets to all the cops. He's like, "Yeah, I'm done," and that's it. Raid 2.
Yeah, he should have just thrown his badge, and then we could have had another rip off of Point Break.
Blank. Yeah, Point Break. So awesome visuals, big bloated cliche kind of crime story. Over intense violence, but some freaking sweet, awesome fight set pieces. What did I rate this? I think I would rate it about probably a 3.5. Somewhere like maybe a 4. I did think about it a little more.
I had it rated as a 5. I don't think I had watched it since I had started Letterboxd. I just was doing it off of my memory. I put it down to a 4 just because you take 20 or 30 minutes out somewhere, even in some of the fight scenes or just whatever, and it flows a lot better. And I don't remember before going, oh man, this is like The Departed, and now I'm like, oh, it's The Departed. But yeah, I would probably give it a 4. Still give the first one a 5 though. The first one is fucking chef's kiss.
And right after the break, feeling what it's like to have compassion for the worst kind of person imaginable. We'll see how Susan Sarandon's character deals with just that kind of conflict in Dead Man Walking. Coming up right after this. And we're back talking about my Wheel of Destiny pick, Dead Man Walking. It is from 1995, an American crime drama film starring Susan Sarandon, Sean Penn, co-produced and directed by Tim Robbins. Did you see that it was directed by Tim Robbins?
I did. It was like the first thing I noticed, and then I noticed that who the star of the movie was.
Yeah, because he's married to Susan, right?
I think, are they married, or are they one of the people who don't, they've just been together for 100 years?
I thought they were married. Maybe you can look that up for me. Let's see. It is based on a book of the same name from 1993. Basically, the story, Sister Prejean establishes a special relationship with Matthew Poncelet, played by Penn, a character based on convicted murderers Elmo Patrick Sooner and Robert Lee Wiley. Not sure why I always corner myself into doing these names without practicing. He is a prisoner on death row in Louisiana, and she visits him as his spiritual advisor after corresponding with him. Now, I saw you kind of had not the highest rating for this film. I think I saw something about things didn't quite fall into place for you. So I'm very curious to hear about that, especially since you had an unfavorable opinion of the last execution we watched in a movie.
Okay, so first off, Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins split in December of 2009 after having been together for 23 years. Okay. So I don't know without clicking further if they were married, but they were definitely together for 23 years. They were together for a long time. So no, actually, like, my issue, so the last movie, back in the season premiere of season 2, I believe is what you're referring to, in
Dancer in the Dark.
Dancer in the Dark, yes. I didn't really feel like we needed that execution. The movie was already so fucking long. Oh my god. But you want to talk about something that was brutal and jarring, like just the way it was done. Like, the scene was shot very well, but might have actually been one of the best shot scenes in that whole movie. But this one, like, so you had a good director, or you know, there was no problem from it being like directed. There was no problem with the actors. Like I believe that Sean Penn is a scumbag because Sean Penn is in fact a fucking scumbag. um, Susan Sarandon, I believe that she would be I believe that they put it the bleeding heart, character or whatever. So I mean, there was nothing from that aspect of it. It just, I don't know. It just, there was something about it where it felt like it was missing something. And I don't really know what it was. Like at 2 hours, it's not, it's not short, but it's not long. It's a pretty average runtime is 2 hours.
I thought it went by at a pretty good.
So it wasn't
click.
anything where. I think if we had watched it on not Pluto, and didn't have probably an extra 30 minutes added for commercials. Yeah, and plus they did the commercials poorly. Like, so if you ever watch anything on Tubi, like they don't do a ton of commercials, but they also count it down, and they kind of look like they try to put them in places where, like, if it was shown on TV, it would be a commercial. And in this, there was just to be in the middle of a sentence, there'd be a fucking commercial out of nowhere, and you're like, wait, why am I looking at this commercial for a car? And it was the same commercials in the same order every time.
Okay.
And maybe that had something to do with it. It's hard to say. But like again, by no means was this movie bad or anything. It was just missing that something to make me go, damn, I'll remember this movie in 6 months to a year.
Okay. Let's dive into some of our notes. I'll probably get into it in my final wrap up, but I really like the stylistic element here to where we got a lot of flashbacks, and the flashbacks kind of look like home movie footage. So it was had kind of a more real feel to it, because we see a lot of stuff like there's some movie footage of like her becoming a nun, some kind of traumatic moments in her childhood. So I like how that kind of flavored like who she was as this nun in this very difficult situation that she doesn't really know exactly what she's getting into.
Oh yeah, no, like I definitely thought, her, not really knowing what she was doing, trying to navigate doing what she thinks is right versus, public opinion and all of that was a very, very interesting.
And she seems like so comfortable and in a groove at the beginning when she's working with her students, and she's just kind of loosely conversating with that one guy who I guess is involved with riding back and forth with this death row inmate. And yeah, he's just like, oh, I made some progress with this. Do you want to meet with him like he's asking? And she does it. And that kind of brings us to, the main plot of the movie as she, first of all, meets with the prison priest.
Yeah, with the chaplain, I guess, is what he's
is he the
called.
chaplain? Okay, I wasn't sure if actual, like, ordained priests are considered chaplains or not.
Yeah, I think he's the chaplain. He might be a priest. I mean,
He had the collar, so I guess that's the reason I assume.
Yeah, but I mean, it's probably just probably regional or maybe something like that kind of thing. Like it's the same thing, different name kind of thing in that situation, probably, or very similar, I'm guessing. So.
But there's a neat contrast there between her as kind of like the novice nun and him as like the hardened priest who's probably worked with a lot of these guys and probably been deceived in his own right. It kind of had a Clockwork Orange feel a little bit because there's some prison priest in that movie too, and a inmate being kind of manipulative. So yeah, it was interesting to see how they were both of the cloth, but he was definitely had a much harder view on the situation than she did going in.
Yeah, it's again one of those things where you see where the people, they're both of the cloth, but one's also been dealing with just hardened criminals, murderers, rapists, that kind of stuff, and the other one is dealing with people who are less fortunate, kind of thing, and trying to teach them and help them, and so it's a much different
environment. Yeah, because it's pretty friendly. I mean, she's teaching kids how to play checkers. She lives in this black community where she's trying to help out. So, Yeah, a lot of interesting. And I like how the film doesn't really go into how she feels about things. It more or less just kind of gives you a taste of it through its visuals. So I thought that was a great way of. It definitely has the look of like a normie movie, but with the touches to it to make it a lot more artistic and thoughtful, I thought.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that brings us to the first time she meets Sean Penn's character, and I just loved how like you can't see at all like what he looks like because like the there's like this metal screen in between them, so you really don't know what to think of him at first, and that that goes right into the psychology of the actual scene. She doesn't know what to expect from this guy, especially since she was conditioned to think he's probably going to try to manipulate me, which he probably does to an extent.
Yeah, and there's a good. That's one of the first times you start to see his character, and it was very. We're talking about things being made differently. This movie was made in 1995, and obviously he's a guy there in Louisiana. He's from the South. He just casually drops the N-word in there 2 or 3 times in this conversation, and again later, and they end up having a conversation about where he doesn't like lazy people asking for handouts.
Which, I mean, you
So,
talk to a lot of conservative folks here, like major Fox News watchers, and, they'll say some of the same rhetoric, unfortunately, still today. So,
yeah, and it was one of those things like I was like, man, I feel like I've heard a lot of that same stuff from people in my family, like almost verbatim, even to the point where when he was just like, she was like, oh, well, you don't necessarily hate black people, you hate lazy people. And I've heard people in my family go, yeah, that's I use that word for any color. It means a lazy person or a shitty person. And I'm like, that's like, okay, you might like, let's be realistic. Like you might really, let's say you really did actually believe that in your heart of hearts and didn't just want an excuse to drop the N-word. Like, that's still not how that works. That's still not what that word means. Like, that word's never going to mean that. Like, you can't do that. Like, not anymore. It never should have been done, obviously. But again, kind of like we talked about in Pulp Fiction, the 90s was a different time. Also, it's, we're looking at a person who's not a good person. So them saying that is not like, I guess, out of character kind of thing, even though we've literally just met the character at this point.
Because, I mean, they say they mean that they don't like any person that's taking government handouts, but at the same time, by purposely directing it towards black people, he's being a bully. So and there's even that scene where he's talking like, why do why do black people bother you? And he's just like, oh, we got jumped. And then he tells that story, and it starts off with him and his brother like throwing rocks at people. It's just like, well, of course they jumped you later if you're throwing rocks at them.
Well, yeah. What do you expect? I mean, you can see so many of the things. Like, if we go, it's a movie I actually would love for us to dive into at some point in here, but American History X, where they talk all the shit on the basketball court after they win that game, and then and all the other stuff that they did up to that point, but then it circles back around, and that whole movie is just violence and hate, and that was another one of those big eye-opening movies for me when I was younger and saw it for the first time, and I even saw it on cable for the first time, and it was still like, oh my god. So anyway, did
you think much of the Possum Flashback? Those were some really interesting scenes, because like at first she's like beating on this dead possum, but then she seems like upset about it. So like I kind of was like picking up some things that like might be digging into like her internal guilt about certain things, and like the fact that she was with a bunch of friends and they were all pounding on this possum. It was kind of this mob mentality thing, which we kind of see later on in terms of all the innocent people wanting the scum of the earth to rot, and not rot but get fried.
Yeah, I'm actually having a hard time picturing the Possum Flashback.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty brief. Do you remember the weird dream sequence where like she sees like the victims of the murders and Sean Penn like all sitting at the table with her family, and then it like pans over to her and she's like this teenager crying in this other room?
Yeah, the dreams were weird, and I feel like that was somewhere where there was a commercial, and like the cuts coming back and from the commercials were also weird. So, but yeah, that does sound familiar.
And then it's not easy to defend this guy to begin with, because the more you know him, like, yes, you sympathize with a lot of the aspects about him, but at the same time, you kind of dislike him too, because we kind of find out that he's like a neo-Nazi and he has these Hitler tats and stuff. And that part of the movie was a little weak, because all of a sudden they drop this like media interview where he's talking about how great Hitler is and stuff. It like kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, like, and it said that, what was it, that Hitler had good ideas, and then it was, the Holocaust was alleged or something, and that was a little bit later in the movie. Like, but yeah, it got to a point where it was very hard to defend him, because, he would say and talk one way with her, and he would still have his bravado and everything, but you could also feel like, okay, he's not great, but he's not terrible kind of thing. And you're getting these kind of flashbacks, piecemeal of what actually happened. And so you're like, okay, maybe he doesn't deserve to fry. Maybe he does just need the life in prison as an accessory. And then, you get the scene where he's spouting out the rhetoric, and then you get to the scene near the end where you finally see like one of the swastikas, and then when you find out what really happened, like near the very end, it's like, oh, okay, but he definitely just trying to be hard.
Yes.
Like you got to put on that front because he's in prison and all of
Yeah,
that.
there was some interesting complexity, and again, I liked how it wasn't all like real. Like there was parts concealed about him that didn't come out until later, so that was neat to see play out in that fashion. Because when he first gets arrested, he's like has his chin up, he's like marching around like, oh, I'm a badass, and he's talking shit to the victim's parents and stuff. And I guess that might have probably been more in like his denial phase, and then I'm sure he probably had to like, team up with like Aryan folks in prison or whatever in order to save his, probably protect his ass. And then, finally when he gets with the nun, it's more of like the remorse stage. So those all play out in kind of a strange way just because they're, we don't see like his whole like history in prison. So it unfolds in kind of a strange way, but at the same time, if you think about it, that complexity, does make sense within him.
I mean, yeah, no, for any, that's kind of, I don't know if it's a real thing. I imagine it is real to a degree, but, in most of your movies or TV shows where someone is in prison, there is definitely a bravado that they have to put off versus how they act when they're in like council or with just a singular person versus the I'm a badass thing, which, I've heard from a lot of people who worked in prisons and been around them and that kind of stuff. So that is a real thing that you kind of have to do, but still it's it makes a lot of sense that within his character, he had to get with the AB, not get jumped by the black people, probably especially if he's dropping N-words and different things.
Walk around with swastika tats. Great cast all around. Sarandon, especially, the way she emotes like concern, compassion, confusion, all great stuff. She won the Oscar for this. A lot of other nominations. So.
Oh, she won an Oscar for this? Okay. Her friend, the one that's like always in the apartment with her and that stuff, the girl with the lady with the short brown hair. There we go. You remember what I'm talking about? So it's very weird to see her in a role, because I've seen her in 2 or 3 since the first thing I saw her in, and in everything since the first thing I've seen her in, she's always like a nice, good person. But the first thing I ever saw her in, which was Justified, she was this just heinous, like evil villain, and she was very good at it. It was a very, very good story arc, and so it's just very different, like to see her be a much nicer person. Which I guess she wasn't super nice on New Girl, but she wasn't heinous. She was just weird, I guess. I don't know the right word to say there, but
Robert Prosky as the defense attorney. That was an interesting choice because I always think of him as the real sweet guy from Mrs. Doubtfire. So, but it would make sense that a nice guy like that would agree to take on a client like that pro bono. And then he has a pretty good courtroom monologue whenever he's really kind of explaining like the mechanics of lethal injection and, making it out to be, this, I mean, this is the best thing we've come up with, and it's still pretty barbaric.
That and also explaining like the difference in Poncelet. So Sean Penn's character, he got a state appointed an attorney that couldn't do shit, and his accomplice got had a good attorney, and so got life. And as we see, they're both pretty equal, as we find out, because they both rape the girl and each kills one person, so they're pretty equal in what they do. So the one to be on death row and the other one not is kind of interesting.
Throughout, I thought it had a really good authentic Louisiana feel. You always kind of feel like you're in the South with these, like, for instance, his mom, like, she didn't seem like an actor at all. She seemed like pretty kind of a real person. So I don't always hang my hat, or I typically don't hang my hat on authenticity, but I think when telling a story like this, especially when it gets to morality and the political side of things, it is nice to have some relatability.
For sure. I'm with you on that. Speaking of authentic Louisiana feel throughout, so the one thing that kind of got me, because I remember me and Carl talked about it. So when he's having, and we're jumping forward here a little bit, but it has to do with this specifically. So he's having his final meal, and he's having shrimp, and he's like, I've never had shrimp before. And I get that he's poor from a poor family, and you don't get a lot of shrimp, but like this is Louisiana, like fucking shrimp and crawfish are like every fucking where. Like I feel like him never having had shrimp like is kind of crazy. I feel like there would have been better for him to have had like a steak and
or like a lobster,
I've never had
something.
prime rib or something like that, But shrimp, it's like it feels like he would have stumbled on a pot of gumbo or jambalaya or some other.
Well, the term po' boy,
dish.
is short for poor boy, which that's just a shrimp sandwich. So, yeah, I definitely see what you're getting at. Where, I mean, I can't imagine shrimp was all that expensive. I mean, there's probably shrimpers all over the place there.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like,
unless he's just like an
nothing,
area
like,
that's just like not into seafood.
I mean, maybe it's possible. It just like that, and it was not such a big thing where I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe they did this. It was just I thought it was very interesting that was what they went with. That
it's almost like somebody
I've never had
from like Iowa wrote that in the script or something. Like, oh, shrimp! I've never had that before.
Shrimp. I could go for some shrimp right now. It'd be real good.
Yeah, I had some not so good pizza tonight, but I digress. No, I won't get into pizza in the middle of our.
We'll circle back to that after we finish, because I also had pizza tonight, so that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting how she doesn't anticipate the fact of how angry like the victim's parents are that she's this nun, like supporting this what they consider this monster scum. Which you can understand why they would say that, especially with the way he carries himself and all the news footage.
Yeah, he's very arrogant. And he had like an air about him that I really couldn't put my finger on, like the way he had his hair, the way he had the little like shitty goatee, and just kind of the way he carried himself. And I was like, I can't put my finger. It's almost like he was a couple of different people kind of rolled into one.
Want to be Elvis kind of guy.
Yeah, well, he had the big pompadour kind of thing. Like it felt like they wanted, or maybe like Maddie Mac, or maybe not wanted, but it kind of reminded me of maybe Maddie Mac or someone like that, where it's like he looks like someone else, and I just can't quite put my finger on it. Because for the most part, us being our age, most of the stuff we've probably seen Sean Penn in, he looks older. So to see him younger with, big hair slicked back and the goatee is kind of a different look.
Oh, that was another trivia question I meant to ask you, but I didn't. Do you know what movie put Van's shoes on the map? Sean Penn from Fast Times at Ridgemont High wore the classic Van slip-ons that are the checker pattern, and overnight, everybody wanted that shoe.
Reasonable. I mean, that's what happens.
All right, another digression. Pizza and shoes. Let's get back to Lethal Injection.
Well, let's rather talk about pizza, bro. I'm a fat guy. I like pizza.
Oh, all right. So trying to console the victims. Maybe she made misjudgment. Oh, that's okay. I think that was probably this. I got distracted quite a bit watching this just because my kids were like, coming home and stuff. But the scene that really did get me in the feels was whenever they were describing the last time they saw their daughter. That kind of tore me up.
Is that R. Lee Emery and his wife? Yeah. Also, he was not in the movie very much. I mean, he was also very subdued for him. Like, there wasn't 800 swear words.
Well, not the much different character there.
But yeah, no, both sets of parents, or even the other guy, the older guy, and the only thing I recognize him from was he was in an episode of New Girl. But yeah, no, the parents, like I said, all of it was acted very well, and they all tell the story very well. Like, I don't know, just something about it. And maybe it was that we watched it on a streaming service that had ads, and it just broke up the timing. Maybe that's what it was. But just something I just couldn't put my finger on. I do think that spending half of the movie, the first hour or so, getting to the last day, and then the whole rest of the movie is the last day. Like, I didn't like that, but digress.
Okay. I appreciated the scene where basically they need to get him to appear in front of this, I guess, appeal board, and they want to make him as sympathetic as possible. And it really draws you into that scene because, like, the camera is, like, constantly, like, getting a little closer to their faces to make it more intimate. And they're, like, pleading with them, we got to get your mom up there to, speak, on your behalf. You're just like, oh, she's just going to cry and it's going to make me upset. And it's exactly what happens. But you can definitely tell that, they needed to make him more human and sympathetic throughout this whole pretty much pointless appeal process. And you even see, like, the confusion in Sarandon's eyes, like, whenever he's going on and on about, like, this appeal, that appeal, or whatever. She's very, very overwhelming. You can tell her, like, trying to swallow all this all at the same time and get over and be intimidated by him.
That, and also, like, I think part of it was because it wasn't like she was trying to get him a new trial or get him freed. She was just trying to get them to not kill him, to take him off of death row and put him back with regular prison population kind of thing. Also, did you notice his brother?
Oh, Jack Black?
Yeah, very young, like a very baby Jack Black. Good Lord. Long hair and everything.
He's also in, I think, Dazed and Confused, Jack Black's in. Also in kind of like that, doesn't say very much, but early role before he kind of had his breakout.
Yeah, they had that scene on the last day where, like, they're all visiting with him, and they're, there's 3 boys and his mom, and they're trying to start talking about girls, and then it's like, oh no, we gotta be respectful, because they were not talking about the girls very respectfully.
And I think I misspoke. I don't think it's Dazed and Confused. I actually think it's that roller skating movie. The Air Up There or something? I don't know. Jeez. I'm all out of sorts. Talk.
Yeah, I don't remember him in Days Confused, but it's been a long time. I've only seen it the once, and it was a couple years ago now. So I'm trying to think. Wasn't he in, like, I feel like he was in, like, Freaks and Geeks or something similar to Freaks and Geeks.
Airborne. That's the movie I'm thinking of.
Airborne. Oh, with is that the musicians, like, break into, like, the radio tower?
Oh, that's
Airheads. Airheads. Okay.
No worries. All right, moving on with this movie, which is a much more serious topic. death penalty protest. That was a great scene. Showed between these two camps, like the folks, like saying basically the state shouldn't have a right to, murder because, two wrongs don't make a right. But then there's also people saying like an eye for an eye. So you have this more political conflict between what the morality of the whole death penalty situation. And although like your main characters are all, on the one side of it, I felt like the movie was still pretty fair and what's the word? Impartial.
Unbiased.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about the politics of it. So yeah, you had the governor like running for re-election and like cracking down on violent crimes and pansy parole boards and that kind of stuff. So like, so you see all of that, and you even have Percilet even saying like, yeah, I'm getting made of an example out of, for his campaign. So they're like doing the governor, like they're appealing to the governor, and you're like, well, this is honestly just a waste of time.
Yeah, and they thought they were going to get a private meeting, right? And then they ended up being in front of a whole like press conference deal.
Press conference kind of thing.
That was
Yeah,
a huge waste of time for them. It was neat. There was another scene where she's talking to him, and it's like from the side angle, so it's not all the back and forth stuff between the metal fence kind of screen thing. It's off to the side where you see them all both at the same time. So it was really neat to see like the deliberate visual choices of how you shot these characters within such a confined setting. And unfortunately, I do think those limitations did kind of start to drag it down towards the end, especially. But we'll get there. Liked how like she's driving down the highway and she's looking off to the side at like these institutionalized guys like working in a field. So I think all of that kind of feeds into this whole idea of incarceration.
Oh, so speaking of that, so there was a scene near the very beginning of the movie. I don't know if you remember it, but I think it's when she's first leaving from seeing Percilet for the first time, and she gets pulled over by a police officer, and he gives her a warning and lets her go. What the fuck? It was literally like one of the most useless scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
I heard a little bit of context about this. I'm not sure where I heard it, but that guy who plays the officer was with Tim in Shawshank, and so
yes, he was the bad prison guard in Shawshank.
So I think that was just a little callback cameo thing. I think that's the only purpose that scene served.
Oh, I mean, they could have made him like just a prison guard, and not even more of a callback. But anyway, that I also was sitting there going, man, where the hell is that guy from? And couldn't place it. And as soon as you're like, he was in Shawshank, I'm like, oh, he was the head prison guard, the bad guy.
Yeah, he's quite unpleasant in that movie. So, but I can see where you see her like, hey, what was the point of this scene? Because that seemed a little pointless.
Like, because I kind of kept waiting for that guy to show back up in a scene or that to be referenced somewhere, and then it never happened. And me and Carl were both like, yo, what the fuck?
I guess if you want to overthink it, maybe the fact that like he let her go with a warning, basically giving her the benefit of the doubt just based on the fact she was a nun, like shows like maybe the privilege that like a woman or a nun would have in facing a law enforcement compared to like a guy that's trying to act all tough. But I'm probably overthinking it.
I mean maybe, but I think at that point it could just boil it down to what, white privilege. She's white, he's white, she's a woman. Like,
well, I was most making that contrast between her and Sean, the Sean Penn character. But
oh well, yes, I guess, but also she's not talking back. She's, yes, sir, I'm sorry. So I don't know. I just thought it was just kind of a wonky scene that, it wasn't long. So, but, it still was just like kind of random that it was there.
You mentioned it earlier, but yeah, he definitely had a little wispy facial hair going on between the little patch in between on his, under his lip, and then his mustache being a little long. We get in some insights from the guards. The one guy's like, yeah, my job is to put the leg up there. And then the one lady's just like, yeah, we don't talk about that. But then, like, all of them are saying, it's just part of the job. And I think at one point, one guy's like, yeah, they just deserve it. So it was neat to see the perspective of the people actually carrying out the act. That's basically the act in question throughout the whole film.
Yeah, and then you get into it. How much are they projecting? Like, because they're in such a macho area themselves, especially the female. I guess she's the head nurse or the head doctor or whatever, where she also has to seem hard. Like, I wonder how much of that would have is projection of strength to hide maybe the horrors that they've seen, kind of thing. But that's delving way more into what was shown. It just, again, it's they deserve it, they're murderers, so fuck it, we're gonna kill them, kind of thing.
The scenes toward the end where he is starting to open up to her about what actually happened, I think it's when we start seeing some of the reflections of their faces in the glass in between them. So all that's real masterfully done. Some great visual flourishes there. Let's see, we get to see the normal guy around his family. Okay. We see the convict get to just kind of hang out with his younger siblings, right? And they're just kind of having guy talk, and it shows him in a more natural feel. And even that, they cut short on him.
Yeah, and he's still, he had all of his stuff to give to his siblings, and he's, hey, be good for your mom, blah, blah, blah. Just even... It's that same thing, even like the worst person has the people that they care about, kind of thing.
And then, I would say the last half hour or so is easily the most powerful part, as, we see him, admit his guilt. He apologizes to the victim's family and says, I now know that, killing is wrong, whether it be me or the, with the state. Now, there's a lot of flashbacks to the actual, killing, which I didn't think that needed to be like a mystery, but I think they kind of overdid it just in terms of flashing back to that and showing little chunks over and over again. Do you think that got exhaustive at all?
No, I think it was more of I thought it was one of those things where, like, the more he actually revealed what happened, the more we were revealed to what happened. So I thought that was done kind of well. But it was one of those things, I think, maybe there was maybe one or two scenes where they probably could have merged them together, kind of. But I mean, I do like that, he finally admitted it, but also to the same degree, maybe maybe you leave some mystery to it where he never admits it, and so you're left wondering, was he really just an accomplice, or did he actually do it?
But at the same time, if it would have left it more ambiguous, then I don't think, because it's more of the nun story. Well, I wouldn't say it's more of her story, but I think more of her arc is dependent on her actually succeeding at giving this guy some sort of redemption or solace, peace, internal peace about the thing. So,
I mean, that's true, and maybe this isn't the right movie for it to be left ambiguous, but I think at that same time, like, if you don't really know, but she's still trying to help, I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, obviously, us knowing, typically I'm all for, sometimes not having ambiguity. Like, I'd like stuff not being ambiguous a lot of the times, so I'm definitely okay with that.
One thing I didn't think worked was after he finally dies, they show like a scene of his victims in the wood, like from an aerial perspective, and then it cuts to him dead. So I guess they're contrasting like them dead, him dead, dead is dead kind of thing, but there being like a time gap in between those made it seem a little awkward. Go ahead.
Or maybe it was supposed to be this leads to this, or I also took it as, it showed, the girl sprawled out, and I guess the guy was sprawled out, but then he's got his arms sprawled out, so maybe it's like we're all the same, or we're similar in death or something. Maybe we're looking too much into it.
They're kind of in kind of a cross kind of position. So yeah, maybe. It definitely stood out to me that he complains about having to wear slippers and a diaper, but that's how icky that whole process does get with people's, basically their bodies being forced to shut down through the chemicals, right?
Yep.
All right. Almost done. It was neat seeing the father of the son. So his wife leaves him because they're grieving in different ways. But he grows a little closer to the nun and wants to start to open up to his heart. And he appears at like the funeral and stuff. So it was interesting seeing him have some more development compared to the other parents.
And the movie could have just ended right there. The whole thing with the church and the greenery or whatever at the end was kind of
that was kind of a soft ending. I
guess
it would have probably been better if it probably ended at his actual funeral. Go ahead.
I would say I can't remember if it was before or after the funeral where you see her going back to like teaching and everybody missing her. I mean,
I think that was the scene right
before
the one you were saying probably didn't work.
Yeah,
or maybe like her like seeing like that she was missed and then sighing and like a quick cut to black. That could have worked a little better too. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. That's all my notes. Very effective and engaging. Great moral topics that comes up throughout. Visuals, authenticity. I think the movie was, it being in this prison setting is it gets a little monotonous toward the end in terms of visuals. And I think it's a little bit too, like, we definitely get enough flashback throughout the first part of the movie to where when we keep flashing back to the actual act later on, it was starting to wear on me. Again, I would repeat the fact that it has this real interesting, subtle artistic feel, but packaged in this Southern Hollywood court drama. And I thought it was quite a treat. 4.5 stars.
Like I said, I just couldn't put my finger on it at all. Like, good story, good acting, all of that, but it's something about it. I still, even after talking about it with you, can't put my finger on it. I gave it a 3. Like it's definitely not bad. And anybody who's like, hey, I want to watch it, I wouldn't try to like convince them not to. But unlike A Few Good Men or A Time to Kill or something like that, which those are straight courtroom dramas, and this is like a hybrid courtroom prison drama. Like, I don't know, it just didn't stand out as much.
All right.
To me.
So we didn't talk about what we're doing next?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So you want me to pick a movie from 1985, correct?
That is correct,
Okay,
Amundo.
pull up my little list just to make sure I say the name of this movie right. Now, any guesses?
Now that you have to make sure you have to say this movie right, I have no.
Well, it's not that it's
clue.
it's not a movie that rolls off my tongue. That's the only thing I was worried about.
So it definitely doesn't seem like it's going to be like Back to the Future or Ran, which I didn't think it would be Ran. We've already done Ran. And first two-timer, let's go. So yeah, I have no earthly clue, honestly.
I was really looking at Demons. That looks interesting. But ultimately, I'm going to go with a movie called Runaway Train. Now, the thing that piques my interest about this is the fact that this came from a Kurosawa script. He was directing this movie in Japan and basically had to switch to another project, Tora Tora Tora. And so, yeah, they eventually ended up making his script. Stars John Voight. And the reason I came across this is it was listed as number 1 on the most underrated movie of 1985. So we're going to check out Runaway Train.
Awesome. All right, let me spin the wheel of destiny.
Not to be confused with the game.
Yes, but made by Bungie. Who also makes Halo. All right, we've got number 33. Okay. And that's going to correlate to, Hail Caesar.
Oh, no. the Coen Brothers flick?
Yep, the Coen Brothers movie. There's like 3 or 4 of them in this list, actually. Okay. So, yeah, big cast.
ScarJo. Saw that either last year or the year before. So, okay, revisit that one.
Yeah, it's Josh Brolin, George Clooney, Ralph Fiennes, ScarJo, Swinton, Tatum, Frances McDormand, of course. So yeah, no, cool. I'm been looking forward to
Yeah,
this
this one was better than a lot of its reputation had led me to think. So, yeah, that'll be a nice breezy watch.
Also, we get to talk more about ScarJo, and it looks like from this picture that she's gonna play like a Hollywood bombshell that she's the new age version of. So I'm down with that.
That's pretty accurate. All right, and I flip-flopped a little bit, but ultimately I would like you to pick a movie off of my acclaimed films I've never seen list, and I just sent you the link for that. I think there's about 30 movies on there, so take your pick. It's a lot of classics, a couple criterions. Interested in checking out.
Awesome. I'm gonna go check out that
There's
list.
some noirs
and,
on there,
see what
so
I
I'm sure those are going to probably weigh heavy on your mind.
I mean, probably. I do tend to like those. I did watch one not that long ago, and Angels and Dirty Angels. Shit, where is it?
Dirty Angels with Wings.
Angels with Dirty Faces. Okay. There we go. Yeah, the movie that the movie in Home Alone was based off of.
All right. Yeah. If you'd like to us to answer a question on the show, by all means, shoot it our way. We'd love to hear feedback from you. Got to check our inbox again. And so, Joey, why do we love doing this show?
Because we love talking about movies. But before we sign off, so I know we mentioned it before, we did switch to Anchor. So if you're looking for us somewhere other than Apple or Spotify or YouTube, it is anchor.fm/AJMCC. It should have all of our episodes already transferred over. It'll also link you to iTunes and to Spotify. And if you want to help support the show, there is a button there where you can do that. You can help us out. If not, no worries. We're just doing this for fun anyway, but it is there. So, but we do this, like we said, because we love talking about movies. So,
absolutely. Well, join us next time for Runaway Train and Hail Caesar. And good night, everyone.
Later.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non-repatriate feeling. Spirit to start.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.